We are officially on verdict watch. The jurors went back to deliberate starting around 10:50 a.m. Central Standard Time. Closing arguments are done. The defense actually went first. The prosecutor passed on the closing argument and only did a response. Now, the judge also gave the jury some instructions. They can either find Karmelo guilty of murder, manslaughter, or find him not guilty. Now, if he is found guilty of murder, he'll be facing 5 to 99 years in jail. If he is found guilty of manslaughter, he'll be facing 2 to 20 years in jail, or they can find him not guilty. The defense starts this off by saying that the state wants this case to be about one thing. Karmelo could have just left, and he admits that Karmelo could have left, and he is pretty sure that he wished he did. However, the law does not require Karmelo to turn his back on a group of larger teenage boys once things are escalated. He reminded the jurors that it was raining that day and that several witnesses testified that track meets are social. The students are walking around, visiting other tents, and they're mingling in between events. He even wanted to remind them that Karmelo did not sneak into the memorial tent. According to the witnesses, Karmelo saw somebody that he knew, and because of the rain, he walked over and said something about the crazy weather. He was then greeted, even called over by a friend. Now, he wanted to remind them that there was a witness who knew both Karmelo and Austin, and that this witness tried to downplay how well he knew Karmelo, even though the defense showed photos of them together at birthday parties, family gatherings, basketball, roasted marshmallows, and previous track meets. He argued that the witness was biased and willing to lie to cover up how close they actually were. He then began to discuss the things that happened under the tent. He stated that Karmelo was seated while Austin and Hunter were both bigger than him and standing over him. He reminded the jurors that some testimony said Hunter may have popped in to defend Austin, that multiple students were standing, and that Karmelo was in a packed tent with teenage boys that were getting more and more upset. He says telling the guys not to touch him, touch me and see what happens, is the ultimate warning to back off. He argued that Karmelo did not have to wait until it was too late to defend himself. He asked the jurors to think about the moment from Karmelo's perspective: bigger boys, a packed tent, people standing over him, his back turned if he tried to walk away, and not knowing if other teammates would have jumped in. He then began to focus on the inconsistencies between the witnesses. He said that the witnesses gave jumbled accounts about who spoke first, who was standing, how hard Austin pushed Karmelo, and whether Hunter was involved at all. He stated that they were even confused about how Karmelo left. Some said that he walked, some said that he jogged. He said with all these different versions, the state has not removed reasonable doubt. He then began to focus on Karmelo's behavior after the stabbing. He said Karmelo could have ran away. He went past the exit and he did not try to leave. That he was very upset, he was distraught, he was crying, he was remorseful. He was asking, was Austin okay? He was making statements saying that he is not going to die. That is not showing intent of somebody who was trying to commit murder. He then goes to say that Karmelo having the knife violated school policy, but according to Texas law, a 17-year-old having a folding knife under 5.5 inches in a public place is not automatically illegal. He reminded the jurors to put themselves in Karmelo's shoes. What would they do in this situation? You have multiple teenage boys that are larger than you, standing over you. He reminded them that Karmelo stayed seated the entire time. He reminded them that most of these witnesses were friends with Austin and Hunter, and he's not saying that they're all lying. He says, but there is a bias there. He also goes to say that nobody can really give us a set account of what happened. None of the stories are matching up. We got over 10 different versions of this altercation. He then mentioned the medical examiner and the type of wound that Austin had. He said that the type of wound was lateral, which shows that this was an awkward, chaotic, split-second decision, that this was not something clean and intentional. He ends it by asking the jurors to hold the state to their burden and ask themselves, did they really rule out reasonable doubt? Now, the prosecutor started off by saying, don't let them turn a threat into a warning. He argued that Karmelo repeatedly said things like, touch me and see what happens, and make me, and that these are not warnings. According to him, these are threats and challenges directed at the memorial students. He said that the most important thing in this case is not motive, but it's mindset. It reminded them that Karmelo was the only person under the tent carrying a knife. He referred to this knife as a secret knife, telling the jurors that nobody else knew that he had it. Austin didn't know, the students around him didn't know, and according to the prosecutor, this gave Karmelo an advantage that nobody else had. The prosecutor went on to say he was always going to come out on top that day. He then argued that the evidence showed that Karmelo provoked the confrontation, reminded the jurors about testimony from witnesses who said that Karmelo refused to leave the tent, cursed at students, and repeatedly challenged them by making these statements of saying, "Touch me and see what happens." He said that Karmelo's own words and actions escalated this situation. "You don't get to meet a shove with a stab." He repeated that statement multiple times throughout this closing argument. He even argued that if Austin pushed Karmelo, the response was not proportional. He says a reasonable person would not respond to a shove by plunging a knife into someone's chest. He then started to focus on the concept of provoking someone. He said that if Karmelo provoked the confrontation, he cannot rely on self-defense. You don't get to provoke someone. He then states that the evidence showed that Karmelo intentionally escalated the confrontation before the stabbing occurred and that Austin was unarmed. He reminded them that the witnesses described Austin as not wanting to fight and pointed out that there was even testimony that Austin said, "I'm not going to fight you, bro." He acknowledged that some witnesses disagreed on certain details, some described the push differently, some remembered different positions under the tent, and some recalled events differently altogether. He told the jurors that despite those differences, the major facts remained consistent, that witnesses consistently testified that Austin was unarmed, that Karmelo refused to leave, and that Karmelo was the one provoking the confrontation. He also addressed Austin's injuries. He reminded the jurors that Austin had no defensive wounds and argued that he never saw the knife coming. He said that Austin expected at most a physical confrontation, not a stabbing. He then discussed Karmelo's actions after the stabbing. He argued that Karmelo's behavior showed a guilty mindset and pointed to the testimony that Karmelo left the area after Austin was stabbed. Now, as he neared the ending of his closing argument, he became more emotional, reminded the jurors that Austin Metcalf was an unarmed teenager who died from a stab wound to the chest. He said that Austin didn't deserve it. He started to describe the case as unjustified, provoked murder. He also told the jurors that this was not manslaughter and this was not self-defense. Before finishing, he asked the jurors, "What kind of community do you want to live in?" He then argued that bringing a knife to a school event and using it during an argument should not be tolerated. He ended by asking the jury to hold Karmelo Anthony accountable and return a guilty verdict for murder. Now, that was the end of the closing arguments. The jury began deliberating around 10:50 a.m. Central Standard Time. As soon as we have any jury questions or as soon as they have a response, I will let you all know.